I'd like to welcome our constitutional officers that have taken the time to be here with us today. I know that there are members of the General Assembly that are also present. They're in session, but some of them have made their way down here to be present with us. The officers that are giving their time to be here, and of course, our honored families. Thank you for being here. This service is all about your loved ones. Our first speaker will be the Governor of the State of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, Lieutenant Johnson, and thank you for your leadership on this important day. A special note of gratitude to you for your years of service to the county and to the state. To Illinois State Police Director Brendan Kelly, our heroic police officers from across the state who are on duty right now, serving and protecting every day, and to the families and friends and loved ones of our fallen heroes. We honor you as we remember and honor Illinois' finest. This memorial is dedicated to the police officers who courageously served with valor, pride, and integrity. The 12 souls that we remember today carried forth that spirit of service, knowing that they were putting their own lives on the line to protect others. Today, while we eternalize them as police officers, I want to speak just for a moment to how special they were as people. Before serving as an officer with the Forest Park Police Department for nearly 2 decades, Nicholas Kozak served in the U.S. Army and the Illinois National Guard. But first and foremost, he was a devoted husband to the love of his life, Maureen, a caring son to his mother, Barbara, and a proud uncle to his sister, Anastasia, and her children. He always kept those around him, especially his fellow Forest Park officers, smiling with his wit. Officer Nicholas Kozak's passing leaves a gaping hole in the Forest Park community, but his legacy of kindness and empathy lives on in the officers he trained and the lives that he touched. Officer James Svek served with the Chicago Police Department for 20 years. At the age of 39, Officer Svek earned his associate's degree and completed 29 weeks of training at the Chicago Police Academy to achieve his lifelong goal of serving and protecting. A loving father and important figure to his children, Samantha, Chelsea, and Sydney, and Papa to his grandchildren, Braden, Vivian, and Madeline. James inspired those around him to pursue their dreams, no matter how big or small. Customs and Border Patrol canine officer Jeffrey P. Delacruz served the nation diligently for more than 3 decades. A dog lover, a motorcycle enthusiast, Officer Delacruz was a friend to all who knew him, finding joy in any and every situation. But more than anything, he loved his wife, Kathy, and his children, Ashley and Sarah, who carry on his memory. Chicago Police Department officer Jose M. Huerta leaves behind his wife Elizabeth and his children Ariel and Master Joseph, as well as his mother Mary. Joey, to those who knew him, exuded kindness in all that he did. His heart could fill up a room. Ariel and Master Joseph, I also lost my father when I was around your age, and I know you will always miss him, but I hope that you will always remember that he loved you more than anything in the world, and he lives on in each of you. For more than 27 years, Joseph A. Tripoli rose through the ranks of the Chicago Police Department, making his way up to detective. But it wasn't just his work ethic and his determination that made him special. It was his selflessness. He put his heart into everything that he did. And Detective Tripoli would stop at nothing to protect his loved ones, especially his children, Jacqueline, Joseph, and Nicholas. To Detective Tripoli's father, Joseph, nothing can fill the hole in your heart, but I hope you find some comfort in the amazingly positive impact that your son had on so many people. Will County Deputy Sheriff Michael John Queenie radiated a spirit of positivity, both at home with his wife, Kelly, and their 5 children, and at the sheriff's office with fellow officers. When watching the Hallmark Channel, or certainly watching his children with enormous pride, he was a good man and a kind man. Sergeant Kenneth John Thurman, Sr., an Army vet, served with the Aurora Police Department for over 20 years. But the job he enjoyed most was serving as father to his 11 children, along with the love of his life, Teresa. From constructing a koi pond to playing Xbox to camping in the backyard, Sergeant Thurman loved nothing more than spending time with his family. He was taken from us too soon, but he leaves behind lifetimes worth of adventures that his loved ones will cherish always. Deputy Sheriff Brian J. Norton served with the Ford County Sheriff's Office for only a few years, but he left an indelible mark on his colleagues and all who knew him. When he wasn't serving his community, you would find him hitting balls on the golf course, listening to 80s rock bands, or cheering on the Cubs. But nothing brought him more joy than spending time with his father, John, his brother, Jeff, and his longtime girlfriend, Hannah, and her children, all of whom he loved dearly. Aurora Police Department Officer Brian Shields brought wisdom and thoughtfulness to his accomplishments in public service. When he wasn't spending quality time with his wife Marina and his children Ava, Samuel, Malachi, Nathaniel, and Serena, you could find him buried in a book, offering good advice to those in his community or volunteering at school. He pushed everyone around him to be the best versions of themselves because he expected that of himself. Deputy Sheriff Joseph Robert Tinoco of the Cook County Sheriff's Department was guided by a strong moral compass. A proud union man and a certified girl dad, Deputy Sheriff Tinoco always put others before himself, his wife Teresa, his daughters Samantha and Alyssa, his fellow Cook County officers, and the public that he served. May we find solace in knowing that he loved his family more than anything. Ottawa Police Department Officer Brian Lee Sember lived by the core belief that everyone is human. Anyone can stumble and can be forgiven. His integrity was unmatched. If he made a mistake, he owned it. And he taught his fellow officers to do the same. And he knew how important it was to show up for those that he loved. He'd drop everything to attend his daughter's softball games or surprise a friend at their birthday party. His family meant the world to him, his fiancée, Danielle, his children, Brady and Bryn, and his mother, Pamela. And it seemed like everyone knew him, and they knew that they considered him like a brother. Knox County Deputy Sheriff Nicholas Donald Wiest felt his call to service since he was just a boy, and he lived by his values even in his very last moments. To say Deputy Sheriff Wiest was a hero would be an understatement, but more than that, he was a giant in his community. Whether he was teaching others self-defense or spearheading the Explorers program at the Aledo High School, Deputy Sheriff Wiest exemplified what it means to serve. And more than anything, his heart belonged to his wife, Jessica, his parents, Kevin and Robin, and his children, Ava Lynn and Emery David. For each of these men who protected and served us all, and for the police officers across the nation who we've lost this last year, let us take a moment now in gratitude and in mourning. To the family and friends of our fallen officers, the state of Illinois grieves with you. To the first responders mourning their lost brothers, we stand with you in remembering and honoring the fallen. These brave men will not be forgotten. They will live on in our memories, in the lives of those that they've saved, and in the hearts of those that they've touched. May their memories be a blessing.
Our next speaker will be the Lieutenant Governor of the State of Illinois, Juliana Stratton.
Thank you, Lieutenant Johnson, and thank you, Governor Pritzker, for your compassionate leadership and for shining a light on the heroes we have lost. Good morning. I want to thank all of you who are joining us today: Illinois State Police Director Brendan Kelly, the elected officials, our distinguished guests, and the brave and dedicated police officers who continue to serve our communities as they grapple with the loss of their friends and colleagues. To the families with us today, the spouses who stood by our fallen officers' sides, the children who looked up to them, the parents who watched as they protected and served with pride, to members of the law enforcement family that stretches across Illinois who carry the grief of their sacrifice, and to all those touched by their lives and their service. In moments like this, my faith tradition takes me to the words of Psalm 34, verse 18, which says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." See, I realize that today's ceremony is to honor the lives of our fallen officers, and it is good to do so in community. But I also know that we are all human, and today is likely hard, that the heartbreak and pain is real. But I believe God is close, especially in times like this. And please know that I'm praying for your strength and your comfort. You who built a home within yourselves to keep their spirit alive and well, I thank you, because the same way your loved one was on the front lines protecting us, you are the vanguards of their memory. Preserving their legacy is a bittersweet duty, one that each of you have never wavered in, but that doesn't mean it's not difficult at times, nor does it erase the pain of grief and loss. And that's why, if nothing else, I hope you can find comfort in knowing that you do not have to do this alone. Your Illinois family stands with you in uplifting the memory of your fallen officer. The impact of their courage and valiant efforts, it rings within each of you every time we speak their names, so that we may all hear the echoes of their greatness and remember them as heroes. So I, too, speak the names of the fallen officers who gave their lives to protect and serve us. Officer Nicholas Kozak, Officer James R. Zvek, CBP Canine Officer Jeffrey P. De La Cruz, Officer Jose M. Huerta, Detective Joseph A. Tripoli, Deputy Sheriff Michael John Queenie, Officer Brian Rommel Shields, Deputy Sheriff Joseph Robert Tinoco, Sergeant Kenneth John Thurman Sr., Deputy Sheriff Brian J. Norton, Officer Brian Lee Sember, Deputy Sheriff Nicholas Donald Wiest. May we take a moment of silence for the lives lost. Thank you. We will never forget the character and strength they held. We will never forget how deeply their service impacted communities across our state. And we will never forget that beyond their service, they were loved by family and friends, and they were great neighbors and had hobbies and things that made them laugh hysterically, and that they lived full and fulfilling lives outside of wearing a uniform. To all who mourn their loss, you will remain in my prayers. I'm sending you love and strength, and as one Illinois family, please know we will never, ever forget them. Thank you.
Okay, if you see in your program, the next speaker was slated to be Secretary of State Alexei Giannoulias. I received a call from his office. He was called away on a family matter. He sends his regrets. He wanted to be here. He was one of the first constitutional officers to confirm that he would be here, and he sends his condolences to the family members that have lost their loved ones this year. Our next speaker will be Treasurer Michael Frericks.
Thank you, Dave. It has been years that I've been coming to this service. And many years it was not this nice of weather. It is nice to be under a cool, bright sun, but doesn't feel appropriate. The rainy, cloudy days seem more appropriate on a day like today because a lot of these families had a bright light in their lives extinguished. There's not a lot we can do to help them, but we can be there like family. Be there to support them on their good days and their bad. And for those of you who are still grieving, it doesn't end after today. But look around. You have a large family that cares about you, a large family that supports you. And I understand the value of this family, this law enforcement family. Because my uncle was a police officer in the Kankakee Police Department. 2 of his children went on to join law enforcement. A son-in-law was a part of law enforcement as well. My godfather and my godmother were police officers. And it is a strong family. But some of you here are part of a much more smaller and unique family. Because although my family members were shot at, were injured on the job, were almost hit by speeding cars, they all came back home at the end of the day. They're all willing to give it all, but some gave all. And for those who are dealing with that, you have my deepest sympathy. In the Treasurer's Office, we run college savings programs. We help young people achieve their dreams to help pay for college. There are a lot of organizations out there going to look after to the children of our fallen heroes. But in the Treasurer's Office, we offer scholarships, fallen hero scholarships. We try to reach out to all of these families, but some families do not reach back out. Whether it's because they're dealing with trauma, or because they feel they don't need this, or they feel they've had enough, or maybe they just feel like they don't want to take anything. Let me know, we are here for you and your children. That special person in their life, that light may have been extinguished, but there is a larger family here to support you as you go forward. You are not alone, even on days it may feel like it. Look around you and look around at these families and see if there's an opportunity you can have to provide an ear, a shoulder, or some way to support them. So thank you all very much for letting me be part of this family here today. And if you out there know someone who left behind children, who has not received a Fallen Hero Scholarship from the Treasurer's Office, please reach out to them on their behalf. That's the least we can do. Thank you.
Turn this down a little bit. Our next speaker will be the Comptroller of the State of Illinois, Susanna Mendoza. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Lieutenant Johnson. Thank you, Dave. I'm so honored to be with all of you here today. Each year, it frankly pains me to see more families join the club that no one ever willingly signs up for, the Gold Star families. It takes a very special kind of person to become a police officer. And frankly, too often it's a thankless job. It's not fair, the attitudes and the conditions that our officers are up against. For our first responders, the mission is simple: protect and serve. But this service is something that we time and again take for granted. To every officer here today, thank you for your service, even when too often those you protect have no thanks to give in return. Thank you for your ceaseless bravery. You make the selfless choice to put the well-being of your community before your own. We can never fully repay you for that type of sacrifice. To the survivors, please know that while your loss is immeasurable and your anguish may at times seem unbearable, you are not alone. As you can see, there are officers and people from every part of Illinois who are here, not only to pay tribute to your loved ones, but to show their love and support of you, the families. You're part of one huge extended family, and we all collectively share in your grief. I often talk about the sacrifices that I've seen firsthand through my own experience with my brother Joaquin. Some of you know him. I often get stopped and asked, "How's your brother doing?" My brother Joaquin was a detective sergeant in the city of Chicago. He worked the third shift in some of the city's toughest neighborhoods, and he served in law enforcement for more than 30 years. Then COVID hit, and after working 17 days straight, extended hours, he caught the virus, and toward the end of 2020, in fact, on his birthday, he fell sick, and 2 days later had to go to the hospital, was hospitalized 72 days, fought for his life, lost both his kidneys, had 5 strokes, and his life will never be the same. He lost the use of one of his arms, and his day-to-day life is 3 days of dialysis a week, and always worried about what the next healthcare crisis will be. We ask a lot of our first responders, and they don't ask all that much in return. A reasonable salary, a pension, and a good insurance and disability plan so that if they get injured on the job, or if the worst happens, that they and their families are taken care of. You can imagine my shock when my brother's claim for duty disability benefits with the city of Chicago were denied by the Policeman's Annuity and Benefit Pension Fund. His was the first case of several, of about 20 that I am aware of COVID to go before the pension fund for duty disability benefits. His was in fact the test case. It's the one that set the precedent. The board denied him because he couldn't prove exactly which specific act of duty is the one that led him to contract COVID. Now, this impossible standard of proof means that all the other officers in the pipeline will fare the same bad luck. They will be denied as well. Now, the irony here is that if they died from COVID, as some of the officers who are being honored today or recognized today did, their families would get their full duty death benefits, as you should. But if you live, you don't. Now, the board is sending officers the very unfortunate message that they are worth more dead than alive. That is shameful and it's unforgivable. Officers shouldn't have to die to get their benefits. Their families should not have to join the club that you are all a part of today. I want to thank the community here today for helping me stand up to this injustice, and not for my brother, but for all of the other officers in this state, or in this city specifically, who are going to follow and benefit from our advocacy together. With your prayers, with your wishes for speedy recoveries, for your advocacy alongside me, you've been at my side and in my hearts the entire time we have fought to right this injustice. Through the steadfast leadership of Representative Jay Hoffman, who I hope is here in this crowd amongst us right now, and State Senator Bill Cunningham, who you should all know, these guys are amazing. They're the best. The bill inspired by my brother and those officers like him, House Bill 3162, passed the House unanimously and will soon get a vote in the Senate. And soon it will be on its way to our governor. It will ensure that these officers get the benefits, if not the respect, that they're rightfully owed. Other first responders in Illinois already have these protections, but for some reason, Chicago officers were left out of the initial legislation. It's time to right that wrong. For the survivors who have lost loved ones, please know that they were not in vain. Their legacies will be forever remembered. Last year at this same memorial, I was approached by the family of fallen officer Brian Pierce Jr. His parents, Tammy and Brian, were still waiting on their next of kin death benefit payments, even though they had lost their son, Brian, 9 months prior to this memorial service. That's because the appropriation for these awards had run out. More officers had died than had been budgeted for. It's tragic. This meant that no additional vouchers for these benefits could be sent to my office for payment until the legislature approved additional spending. Now, fortunately, the legislature did increase the authorization and approve those benefits. However, no family should have to wait months on end to receive these payments. They're critical. And if we are truly to honor Brian Pierce's memory and his mother's advocacy for other fallen officers' families, then this must be fixed too. I asked State Representative Dave Vella and Senator Chris Belt, and I did see Representative Vella over there. Thank you for your leadership, Representative Vella, to introduce legislation, House Bill 1208 and Senate Bill 217, that would allow these vouchers to come to my office even when an appropriation runs out, so that I can pay them immediately. It becomes what we call a continuing appropriation, so the legislature wouldn't have to reconvene to be able to pay those bills. Now, it's a simple bill, but no less extremely important for families who have struggled enough with the loss of their loved one. While our sponsors are trying their best, I know they are, and I am proud to have you be the sponsors of this legislation. We unfortunately have not been able to advance it out of session yet. Elected officials who say that they fully support our men and women in blue must stand up for and support the families of those officers who gave the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. It's that simple. I, for one, will not stop until we get this continuing appropriation set up for the families. And next time you see an elected official in state government, and especially one who says that they support you, please ask them where they stand on this specific issue of a continuing appropriation for widows and orphans. Let them know this is really important and it needs to get done. As state officials, we should never lapse in our commitment to first responders and their families. We must show their lives are valuable, not just through our words, but through our actions. So today, I stand with you, and I promise to work with you and for you. Lastly, to our officers, men and women, please take care of yourselves, both physically and mentally. This is a grueling job with horrors that you shield us from every day, but at the expense of your own mental health. Remember that it is a sign of strength and of valor to ask for help, so please ask for it and get it when you need it. All of you are and will always be in my prayers. I love you. I want to thank you and ask God that He bless you. And to the families of our fallen officers, may they rest in God's eternal glory and peace, and may He wrap His arms around you today and forever. Thank you, and God bless.
Our next speaker will be Amber Oberheim, member of COPS, a family survivor, Officer Christopher Oberheim, Champaign Police Department, end of watch, May 19th, 2021.
Good morning. My name is Amber Oberheim, and I am the widow of Chris Oberheim, Champaign police officer who was shot and killed on duty May 19th, 2021. Chris was responding to a call for help. He and another officer were coming to the aid of a woman and her children. They engaged the perpetrator, and within 7.5 seconds, he began firing his unlawfully possessed gun at my husband and his partner. Within seconds, their bodies had been struck by bullets a total of 6 times. My husband's partner was struck 3 times, and thankfully, he survived. My husband was also shot 3 times, but succumbed to a gunshot wound to his head. I tell you that not to recite the events of the worst day of my family's life, but rather to give you background on the perspective that I have when I'm sharing the words that I have written for you. While I am extremely honored and humbled to have an opportunity to speak to everyone who's gathered here today, I will be brutally honest. I will tell you that I certainly wish that it was not the case. As I was preparing for today, several words came to mind. Officer down, end of watch, line of duty death, fallen officer, trauma, survivor, widow. All words that I would just as soon have never had to familiarize myself with, let alone make reference to on a regular basis. You see, these are not words that any of us expected to have to speak about, to have to think about, or to adopt as part of our identity. I suspect that most of us didn't have a choice in what happened the day or night that our officer left this earth. The only thing we get to choose is how we respond to it. Let me repeat that sentence. The only thing we get to choose is how we respond to it. Surviving families. There are no words. No words that I can speak to lessen your pain. If I could, I would. And you don't need any advice from me. Lord knows that there are plenty of other people who are willingly giving you unsolicited advice about how you should look, how you should feel, how you should think, how you should grieve, what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing. I get that. My family and I were in your seats just last year, so we are still rookies in this surviving game. But I would like to share 2 things with you. First, when faced with what feels like an impossible task or question that needs to be answered. Be the wife that your officer would want you to be. Be the husband, the daughter, the son, the mother, the father, the sister, the brother, the niece, the nephew. Be the person your officer would want you to be. Make purpose out of your pain. Find a way to bring meaning and purpose out of your officer's life. Create a legacy. This has been one of the most therapeutic, healing things that my 4 daughters and I have done over the course of the last 2 years. I hope and pray that you find peace that transcends understanding as you continue to mourn the loss of your hero. Officers, we see you. We see some of the most dedicated, humble servants with huge hearts. We see leaders among you who exemplify qualities like respect, honor, valor, integrity, commitment, and undeniable character. My girls and I have learned that adversity brings a person's true character to the surface. In our experience, during adversity, our police family has been nothing short of amazing. I know that in the light of the last 5 to 10 years, some of you have questioned your career choice more than once. I know that despite no fault of your own, you have been disrespected, scrutinized, criticized, unappreciated. I also know that your brothers and sisters in uniform who sacrificed their lives doing the job that you continue to do in their absence are damn proud of you for holding the line. I want to take a minute to recognize something that, frankly, I don't think that we do a very good job of acknowledging: police officer suicide. Last year, nationally, we had 160 law enforcement suicides. That was an increase of nearly 12% from 2021. That is a sobering statistic, but not nearly as alarming as the Illinois statistic. In 2022, our state lost 14 law enforcement officers to suicide. That's a jump of 133% from the year prior and marks the highest number of officers to take their own life in our state in a single calendar year. Please, I urge you, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. If you need help, it is out there. And if you don't know where to get it, text me, call me. I'll help you. I promise. It does not matter day or night. Please join me in a moment of silence to honor the officers lost to suicide and their families who mourn their loss. Thank you. Pastor Philip Trent delivered an excellent message at Deputy Sean Riley's funeral. And I'm sure I won't get all of the details right, but I would like to share with you the way that I remember it. Some call it a thin blue line, but that is not the way that I see it. I see a thick blue wall made up of men and women who stand between us, our families, our friends, and evil in this world. A wall so strong that it will not fail. A wall that refuses to fall when it loses a brick. A wall that has held my family up time and time again. A necessary wall of protection that shields us from life's horrors and tragedies because we aren't all made to be able to handle it like you can. That wall may have some scars and it may be worn and faded in some places, but the mortar that holds it together is stronger than anyone outside of it will ever understand. My husband's life mattered. The lives of the officers that we are honoring today mattered. Every life lost in the line of duty matters. Your lives matter. We are a family, and when one of us falls, it has become abundantly clear to me that we don't stand alone. Show up for each other. Lean into each other. Be present and purposeful and proud of the work that you do. Respected leaders and elected officials, thank you for taking the time to be here today to remember and honor those officers who have given their lives protecting all of you and the citizens of the state of Illinois. The reason that we are here today far exceeds politics and supersedes all political boundaries. The police officers in the state of Illinois are in a war of good versus evil, not red versus blue or Republican versus Democrat. I ask you to recognize that, support them, be present, be mindful, be purposeful in your decision making to ensure that they make it home to their families after every shift. I am a woman of my word. When I say that I am going to do something, I do it. These officers that are standing all around us today and hugging us around this memorial, they are people of their word. When they say they are going to do something, they do it. We have heard a lot of words today. Now we are ready for action. Please be people of your word and do what you say you will do. To everyone here today, the world that we live in has become unrecognizable at times. I don't know about you all, but my family, we don't hardly ever watch the news anymore. To turn on the TV and see headlines about school shootings and mass murders and people disrespecting our country and the principles that it was founded on, it's disgusting and nauseating to watch. Our country's moral compass is spinning out of control. What we have witnessed over the course of the last several years is nothing short of a disgraceful decay of American values in terms of respect for authority. That has to change. We have to fix it. We are responsible for making that happen. And when our law enforcement officers respond to call after call that clearly illustrate the breakdown of our country's ethical backbone, we must hold the line for them. We must support them in their quest for safety and justice. If we don't own up to that responsibility, we are not only failing our officers, we are failing our country. Lastly, to those we are honoring today, I don't even know where to start. We miss you. We love you. We will honor you and remember you always. We will be forever impacted by your love, your service, and your sacrifice. We don't really know how to live this life without you, but we promise to do our best. We find hope and peace knowing that we will be reunited with you in God's time. We will always remember. We will never forget, and we will stay in this fight. I leave you all with a Bible verse that we shared at my husband's funeral. It's from Joshua chapter 1, verse 9. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Thank you.
Our next speaker be Kathleen Ritmanik Emmy, member of COPS, family survivor, Sergeant Marlene Ritmanik, Bradley Police Department, end of watch, December 30th, 2021.
Hello, my name is Kathleen Ritmanik Emmy. I am sister of Sergeant Marlene Ritmanik. Her end of watch was December 30th, 2021. All of our loved ones are being honored today and every day for their ultimate sacrifice. To all of the families of the fallen officers that died in the line of duty this past year, my heart breaks for you all. So many of us know your pain that you hold in your heart and the thoughts you hold in your mind on the day that it happened and every day to come. People will try to explain that things will get better with time. It is not time that heals. It is learning to deal with the loss of your loved one. One thing we can all do is to be there when you are in need to lean on, to talk to cry with, and to help you grieve your fallen officer. Just a little about my sister, Sergeant Marlene Ritmanik of the Bradley Police Department. She was an amazing person, an amazing officer. She was beautiful, kind, loyal, and she was full of life, just as all of yours. Marlene had the ability to speak to people, to see good, and to resource for people, to help them have a better life. Up to her very last breath, Marlene continued her way of policing. However, this time she was unsuccessful. Marlene was disarmed and she was executed. How do we move forward? We lean on our family, our immediate family, and our family of blue. I recently went through the stage of grieving acceptance, and it's been a year and a half. So hold on tight. Through acceptance, it has given me strength to move forward by getting involved in my community and raising my sister up. Keeping her alive in our community so that Marlene will never be forgotten. What I am telling you, get involved. Make sure your officer is never forgotten. Lean on your family and your family of blue. This will help you move forward. I'd like to leave you with a poem Sergeant Marlene Ritmanik wrote and published in 2001, with her end of watch being 20 years later in 2021. She expressed in her poem all of the daily challenges that every officer endures. Sacrifices unnoticeable to many. The color we bleed is that of deep blue. The blood that is shed is without asking for who. No time to be afraid, no time to cry, no choice in what we do, where we go, or when we die. The color we bleed is that of deep blue. All too often, one will pay the ultimate price. Those who wear the uniform accept the sacrifice. Beyond the call of duty, one day might be mine. No regrets, no sorrow, or fear as I walk the blue line. The color I'll bleed is that of deep blue. We miss you and love you every day, Marlene. Fly high. We got your 6. Thank you, and God bless.
Next will be the survivor's prayer, which you can find a copy of in your program. Be read by Katie Reed, family survivor, Officer Anthony Raymond, Hillside Police Department, end of watch, October 1st, 1972.
Survivor's Prayer, penned by Mary Ann Raymond Blair, family survivor. Good and gracious God, we are survivors, seeking healing for our broken hearts and broken spirits. We are survivors seeking understanding of something that is incomprehensible. We are survivors seeking comfort in an inconsolable situation. We are survivors seeking faith, where our faith is being challenged and tested. We are survivors seeking hope, where all seems hopeless. We are survivors seeking love, a love that has been taken from us, yet we desperately cling to it. We are survivors seeking peace, peace in the knowledge that our loved one is with you, and that one day we will find peace in our hearts. Lord, we thank you for your love and for the bond we survivors share. We find strength in you and in one another. Dear Lord, travel with all of us on our journey of healing. We pray that in your power and love and through each other, we will find all that we seek. Amen.
Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. And while you're at it, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.